AITA for kicking my girlfriend out after she called me just her roommate to her ex? Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel's been losing a bit of traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways to support us. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you great content. Your support means the world. Let's keep growing this channel together. Thanks so much. Now let's get into the video. This one's a long one, but trust me, it's worth the read. I've been trying to process everything that's happened over the past few months, and I think writing it all down might help me find some closure. Plus, I know many of you have been asking for updates. I walked into my apartment and found my girlfriend with her ex. She told him I was her roommate and the one who bankrolls everything for them. So I kicked her out, and now her family is after me to forgive her. I, 32 am, work as a software developer at a mid-sized tech company downtown, making about $95,000 a year. Nothing crazy, but enough to afford a one-bedroom apartment in a good part of the city. I've been hustling since college, paid off most of my student loans. I've got about $15,000 left of the original $80,000, and I'm finally at a point where I can start thinking about investing, or maybe buying a place someday. When I met Vanessa, 29F, at a networking event 2 years ago, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. She was a stunning brunette who worked as a marketing consultant, though I rarely saw her actually consulting on anything. Always dressed in designer clothes, constantly taking pictures for her Instagram, where she had about 15,000 followers. Looking back, the red flags were everywhere, but when you're thinking with the wrong head, you miss those things. We started dating, and in less than 4 months, she'd pretty much moved into my apartment. She didn't contribute to rent. She said her contract work was unpredictable, but she had no problem buying $300 shoes or getting her nails done twice a week. At first, it didn't bother me. I was making good money, and she'd occasionally cook or clean, though she'd complain like she was doing me a massive favor. Babe, I spent like 2 hours making dinner. I'm exhausted. Can we just order in tomorrow? Dinner would be something basic, like pasta with Jared sauce, and somehow cooking it meant she couldn't do the dishes too. But hey, I was happy to have a gorgeous girlfriend who seemed interested in me. Fast forward to last month. I'm working like crazy on a new project, pulling 12-hour days to meet a deadline. My boss, Mark, promised the team bonuses if we delivered early, and I desperately needed them because Vanessa had borrowed $2,500 from me for a car emergency, though I'm pretty sure it went to Botox and fillers. So, I'm wrapping up a brutal Thursday when Vanessa texts me. Vanessa, hey babe, can I use the apartment tonight? Catching up with a college friend. Need some girl time. Might be around 10. I don't think much of it. I'm exhausted anyway. Maybe I'll meet up with my coworker Jake, and we can hash out some kinks in our code. I tell her no problem and focus on finishing my work. I finally leave the office around 8:30, grab some Chinese takeout, and get home earlier than planned, around 9:15. As I walk down my apartment building hallway, I notice a pair of expensive-looking men's loafers outside my door, clearly not mine, along with a designer jacket that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I open the door, and there's Vanessa, on my couch, the one I dropped $1,200 on, sipping the expensive sparkling water I'd been saving for a special occasion, sitting way too close to a guy who looked like he stepped out of a Rolex ad. The moment she sees me, the color drains from her face. She jumps up and says in this high-pitched, fake little voice I'd never heard before, "Oh, Derek, you're home early. Derek, this is my roommate." Roomie. After nearly 2 years together, after I'd been covering 90% of her expenses for months, the guy just smirks at me with this smug, Wall Street bro look and says, "What's up? I'm Issen. Vanessa and I dated back in college. Just catching up on old times." I just stood there for a good 5 seconds, trying to process what the hell was happening in my own apartment. Vanessa tries to laugh it off. "Oh my God, I was just kidding, Derek. He's my boyfriend, obviously. Issen's just an old friend." But I could see it in her eyes, that panicked look you get when you're caught in a lie. And this Issen character wasn't helping, sitting there with his $200 haircut and megawatch, looking at me like I was the janitor who'd shown up early. "You need to leave," I said, keeping my voice steady. Then Issen laughs and looks at Vanessa. "Is this guy serious?" Then back at me. "Relax, bro. We're just talking. Don't be so insecure." Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the 60-hour work weeks catching up to me. Maybe it was the realization that the woman I'd supported for nearly 2 years had just introduced me as her damn roomie. Whatever it was, I was done being disrespected in my own home. I stepped forward, grabbed his stupid designer jacket, and threw it at him. "Get out of my apartment before I throw you out." He puffed up his chest like some cartoon alpha. "You really want to go, little programmer?" I benched 250. I didn't even bother with words. Working with computers all day doesn't mean I'd given up my 3 times a week boxing classes, something Vanessa always complained about because it took time away from her. My right hook connected with his jaw before he could even get his hands up. He stumbled back, knocking over my coffee table and sending drinks flying. Vanessa started screaming, calling me crazy and violent. Issen tried to come at me again, but I met him with an uppercut that sent him to the floor. "Both of you, get the hell out," I yelled, grabbing Issen by the collar and literally dragging him to the door. Vanessa was in full panic mode. "Derek, stop. You're overreacting. We were just talking." "Talking?" I laughed. "In my apartment? Drinking my expensive water? While introducing me as your roomie? Screw that. You can leave with him." I shoved Issen out the door and turned back to Vanessa. "Pack your bags. You're not staying here." "Are you serious?" she said, her tone shifting from panic to that manipulative one she used when she wanted something. "Babe, you're misunderstanding everything. Issen just stopped by to." "I don't give a damn." I cut her off, heading to the bedroom. I grabbed the Louis Vuitton suitcase I'd bought her for her birthday, another $1,000 I'd never see again, and started stuffing her clothes into it. "What are you doing?" she shrieked, following me. "Stop. That stuff is expensive. Should have thought of that before you disrespected me in my own home," I said, continuing to pack. "You have 5 minutes to grab what you need, or it's all going in the trash." Then she switched tactics. Tears, out of nowhere. "Please, Derek, I'm sorry. It was a stupid joke. Where am I supposed to go? Call Issen, or one of your other roomies? Not my problem anymore." 10 minutes later, I slammed the door behind her, leaning against it as I heard her sobbing in the hallway. Pure theatrics. I looked around my apartment. Spilled water on the carpet, broken glass on the floor, her perfume still lingering in the air. I felt empty, but also strangely relieved, like I'd finally removed a tumor that had been draining me for years. The texts started rolling in around 3 a.m. First from Vanessa. "Can we please talk? I made a mistake." Then, at 4:30 a.m., "I left my chargers and my makeup bag. Can I grab them tomorrow?" By 6 a.m., the tone shifted. "You totally overreacted. Issen and I were just talking. You're so insecure and violent." By noon, I had 16 missed calls and a voicemail from her mother, Diane, whom I'd only met twice, but who always made comments about how Vanessa could do better than some computer guy. "Derek, this is Diane. Vanessa told me what happened. I am extremely disappointed in your behavior. A real man doesn't kick his girlfriend out over a misunderstanding. Call me immediately." Then a text from her sister, Ashley. "What the hell is wrong with you? V is a wreck. She's been crying all day. You need to apologize right now." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called my landlord and asked if I could change the locks, explaining I'd had a bad breakup and was worried about someone letting themselves in. He was very understanding and sent someone over that afternoon. When I got to work on Monday, my buddy Jake took one look at me and said, "Dude, you look like shit. What happened?" I gave him the short version. His response said it all. "So, your ex was entertaining her ex-boyfriend in your place, called you her roomie to your face, and her family thinks you're the asshole? Get the fuck out of here." That afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Derek speaking. "Richard, Vanessa's uncle." Richard was the only member of her family I actually liked. Retired military, he always seemed embarrassed by how spoiled his niece was. "What can I do for you, Richard?" I asked, expecting another lecture. "Just wanted to let you know, Vanessa stayed at my place last night. She was crying, saying you threw her out for no reason. But it slipped out, after a few glasses of soda, that Issen had actually stayed over the night before too, while you were working late." My stomach dropped. "Wait, what?" "Yeah, sounds like it wasn't just a casual visit. And, between us, this isn't the first time she's pulled something like this. She did the same thing to her previous boyfriend. Just thought you should know." I thanked him, hung up, and immediately blocked Vanessa's number. The next day, I started going through our shared accounts, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, food delivery apps, and changed all the passwords. That's when I noticed something that made my blood boil. Over $3,000 in charges on my Amazon account for things I never ordered, all shipped to an address I didn't recognize. Checking the dates, these were purchases made after I'd kicked her out. I immediately called Amazon customer service and explained the situation. Surprisingly, they were very understanding and managed to cancel most of the orders that hadn't shipped yet. But some items had already been delivered: designer clothes, high-end makeup, even a damn PlayStation 5 I'd been wanting for months myself, but hadn't wanted to splurge on. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "It's Vanessa. Stop being childish and unblock me. We need to talk about our relationship." Our relationship? Seriously, I blocked that number too. A week of blissful silence passed. I started to feel like myself again, focusing on work and reconnecting with friends I'd neglected while I was with Vanessa. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, my boss called me into his office. "Derek, there's someone asking for you at reception. Seems agitated. Security's already been alerted." I knew immediately who it was. When I got downstairs, there was Vanessa, in full drama mode. Designer sunglasses hiding obvious tears, a shopping bag in hand, dressed like she was heading to a photo shoot. "Sir, this woman is insisting on seeing you," the security guard said, looking uncomfortable. "Let's go." I motioned for Vanessa to step outside the building. "What are you doing at my job? This is completely inappropriate. You blocked my number, you're not answering my emails. How am I supposed to talk to you?" she seethed, just loud enough for passers-by to hear. "There's nothing to talk about," I replied firmly. "We're done. I packed up all your stuff. Your sister picked it up 3 days ago. I need my Tiffany bracelet, the one you got me for our anniversary. It wasn't in the boxes." I almost laughed. The bracelet she'd pawned last month to pay her cell phone bill. That Tiffany bracelet. Her face fell. She'd forgotten her own lie. "This is what I'm talking about," I continued. "The constant lies, the manipulation. It never stops. Now, please leave before I have to ask security to remove you." "You're so cruel," she whispered, tears perfectly streaming down her cheeks without smudging her makeup. "I made one mistake. Just one. Your uncle told me Issen stayed over the night before too, while I was working overtime to pay for the lifestyle you feel entitled to. Richard had no right." She stammered. "Get help, Vanessa, and stay away from me, especially at my workplace." I turned and walked back into the building, nodding to security. "She's not allowed back in." 2 days later, I received a certified letter from a downtown law firm. Apparently, Vanessa was threatening to sue me for unlawful eviction and withholding personal property, valued at over $15,000. I actually laughed out loud when I read it. She wasn't on my lease, had never paid a dime in rent, and I had documented proof of returning all her belongings. I forwarded the letter to my cousin, who works as a paralegal, and she helped me draft a response that basically told them to go pound sand. The final straw came that Friday when I got home to find Issen waiting for me in my building's lobby. "We need to talk, man," he said, approaching me. "Nothing to talk about," I replied, walking past him. He grabbed my arm. "Vanessa says you're spreading lies about her, that you're harassing her." I stared at his hand on my arm until he let go. "That's rich, coming from the guy trespassing in my building. You know there are cameras everywhere, right?" He looked up, noticing the security cameras for the first time. "Vanessa's having a hard time," he continued. "You really messed her up." "Let me guess," I said. "She needs money for an emergency, and you're tapped out." The look on his face told me I'd hit the nail on the head. "Stay away from me. From this building. Both of you. Next time, I call the cops." That night, I pulled up my bank statements from the past year, tallying up every loan I'd given Vanessa, every dinner I'd paid for, every purchase she'd guilt-tripped me into funding. The total made me physically sick, $26,743. I just sat there, staring at my laptop screen, thinking about how many hours of my life I'd worked to earn that money, how many late nights I'd stayed at the office, how many weekends I'd sacrificed, all while she was probably texting Issen from my couch, planning their next reunion. That night, something in me shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was royally pissed. Not the hot, impulsive anger from the night I kicked her out, but a cold, calculated fury that made me want justice. 2 weeks after the lobby incident with Issen, I was finally starting to feel normal again. Work was going well, we delivered the project ahead of schedule, and bonuses were on the way. I was back at the gym regularly and reconnecting with old friends. Then, Madison, one of Vanessa's former roommates, reached out to me on Instagram. We'd only met a couple of times when I'd pick Vanessa up from her old place before she practically moved in with me. Hey Derek, I know this is random, but I think you should know something. Vanessa wasn't just seeing Issen behind your back. She's been doing this with multiple guys for years. She sent me screenshots of conversations where Vanessa bragged about having sponsors, different men who all thought they were in an exclusive relationship with her, each contributing different things. One paid for her car, another for her credit cards. Apparently, I was the apartment and shopping guy, and Issen was the luxury experiences guy who took her on expensive weekend trips. She used to joke that none of us knew about the others. Madison called it her business model. I stopped being friends with her when I realized how twisted it all was, she wrote. I felt sick, but also strangely vindicated. At least I didn't feel like the crazy or insecure one anymore, like she always made me out to be. I thank Madison for telling me the truth. I went back through my photos, finding pictures from trips and events where Vanessa always seemed to be on her phone. She'd claimed she was answering work emails or helping a friend through a crisis. All those weekends she couldn't see me because of family commitments or work retreats. All those times she was too tired for a date because she'd had a stressful day. My mind started replaying little moments that should have been red flags. How she always kept her phone face down and took it into the bathroom with her. How defensive she'd get if I asked about certain charges on our shared food delivery apps. How she'd claim to have work meetings that curiously required new outfits and a full face of makeup. How she never wanted me to pick her up from anywhere, always insisting on meeting me directly. How her stories about her day often had inconsistencies, and she'd get angry if I pointed them out. I decided to dig deeper. Going through my emails, I found receipts for gifts I'd bought her that she claimed never arrived, probably returned them for cash or sold them online. I found calendar events for dates she'd canceled last minute, claiming migraines or food poisoning. And then I remembered something else. When we first started dating, Vanessa had asked to use my laptop to apply for a job. I'd saved her resume and cover letter in my documents folder. On a whim, I opened them. It was all a lie. The marketing agency she claimed to have worked for didn't exist. The college degree she claimed to have, the university had no record of her when I checked their online alumni directory. The client testimonials on her personal website, all fake profiles with stock photos. My 2-year relationship had been with someone who literally didn't exist. As I was combing through my email, looking for other accounts she might have accessed, I found something that made my blood run cold. She'd been emailing herself copies of my tax returns and pay stubs. Why? Then it hit me. She was documenting my income, probably to calculate exactly how much she could bleed from me. But the most shocking discovery came from an unexpected source. Remember Mark, my boss? Turns out, he'd met Vanessa at the company Christmas party last year. She'd added him on LinkedIn afterward, claiming she wanted to network. He declined the request because he felt it was inappropriate, given she was dating me. The thing is, Mark told me privately over lunch. She reached out to me again last month, before your breakup. Asked if I wanted to get drinks to discuss potential marketing collaborations. When I mentioned you, she said you guys were on a break and had an open relationship. My boss declined again and didn't say anything to me at the time because he didn't want to get involved in my personal life. But after hearing about our dramatic breakup through the office grapevine, he felt he had to tell me. I sat in my car after lunch, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. Every new revelation felt like another stab in the back. The woman I had supported, cared for, and yes, loved, had been playing me for a fool from day one. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was racing with everything I'd uncovered. I'd been angry before, but this was something more. I was coldly, precisely determined to make sure Vanessa faced consequences for what she'd done, not just to me, but to all the men she'd manipulated and exploited. This wasn't about revenge for a broken heart anymore. This was about justice for financial fraud and emotional manipulation on an industrial scale. I decided it was time to take back control, but I had to be smart about it. No direct confrontations, no emotional outbursts. This had to be strategic. First, I documented everything. Every text message, email, bank transfer, and gift. I gathered statements from Madison and my boss about Vanessa's deceptions. I got security footage from my building showing Issen's unauthorized visits. I filed a police report for the fraudulent Amazon charges, making sure her name was on the official record. Next, I reached out to her other sponsors. Madison had given me enough information to track down 2 of them on social media. Instead of sounding like a jealous ex, I framed it as a warning between men. Hey man, you don't know me, but I think we've both been victims of the same scam. Is Vanessa hitting you up for money for car repairs, medical bills, or family emergencies? Both replied within hours. One guy, a doctor named Michael, had been paying for medical treatments for supposed endometriosis. Another, James, was covering her car payments, which she claimed she needed for work. Neither knew about the other, or me, or Issen. We started a group chat and compared notes. The patterns were identical. The emergencies, the excuses, the disappearances explained away by work trips or family commitments. All told, Vanessa had conned the 4 of us out of over $50,000 in the last year alone. Michael, being a doctor, was particularly incensed about the fake illness. That's not just a scam, that's fraud. We agreed on a plan. No direct confrontation or revenge plots that could backfire legally. Instead, we'd target the one thing Vanessa valued more than money: her reputation and social standing. James, who worked in finance, reported her consulting business to the IRS for potential tax fraud, since she'd never registered as a business despite claiming to be an independent consultant. Michael used his medical connections to alert the state medical board about someone faking medical conditions to solicit money. He didn't name her directly, but gave enough details that if she tried the medical scam again, red flags would go up. I sent certified letters to all the stores where she had credit cards listed under my address, removing my information and notifying them of potential fraud. We all filed individual police reports, detailing the specific con she'd run on each of us, creating a paper trail that would follow her. But our masterstroke came when I contacted Richard, Vanessa's uncle. I wasn't sure if he'd be receptive, given family loyalty, but I felt he deserved to know the whole truth, especially since she'd been using his place as a crash pad while lying to him. I shared everything we'd uncovered: the multiple boyfriends, the fake illnesses, the fraudulent resume, the financial scams. I showed him the police reports we'd filed and the legal actions we were taking. I expected him to get defensive or minimize it. Instead, he was devastated. "She told me you were controlling and jealous," he said, his voice heavy. "That you monitored her phone and wouldn't let her have male friends. That you kicked her out for talking to an old classmate." "That's not remotely true," I replied. "I know that now," he sighed. "But there's something else you should know. She's been using my military service as part of her scam, telling people she needs money to cover my medical expenses the VA won't pay for." That was a new low, even for Vanessa. Richard had served 2 tours in Afghanistan and been wounded in combat. He was a genuine hero, and she was exploiting his service for cash. "I think it's time for a family meeting," Richard said grimly. "Her parents need to know what their daughter has really been up to." The plan came together perfectly. Over 2 weeks, first, each of us filed individual police reports for fraud and theft, creating a record that would flag any background check. Then, James reported the suspicious activity to his company's fraud department, triggering an investigation into her marketing consultancy, which was really just a front for receiving payments from her clients. Michael re-notified the state medical board, this time with more specifics, ensuring that if she tried the medical fraud again, she'd be flagged. I hired a lawyer, who sent cease and desist letters to Vanessa and her attorney regarding the false accusations and harassment, including all the evidence we'd gathered. But the final blow was delivered by Richard, when he confronted Vanessa about using his military service and supposed medical needs as a money-making scheme. She didn't deny it. Instead, she asked him for money to handle the situation with Derek and the others. That was the last straw for Richard. He called a family meeting, parents, siblings, everyone. He laid out the entire scheme: the evidence, the police reports, the victim testimonies, and the legal complaints. I wasn't there, but according to Richard, it was an atomic bomb. Her parents, who had always enabled her behavior, couldn't deny the mountain of evidence. Her father, who had once called me a coward, was struck completely silent, stunned by the depth of his daughter's deception. Her mother started crying, wondering where they'd gone wrong. Her sister, Ashley, the same one who'd sent me hateful texts, just kept repeating, "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know." When confronted with everything, Vanessa did what narcissists do when cornered. She deflected blame. She claimed I was controlling, that I had forced her to do these things, that she was the real victim. But with 4 different men telling the same story, with evidence dating back years before she even met me, her lies crumbled. Her parents cut her off financially. Her sister blocked her on social media. Her friends, what few she had left after Madison exposed her business model, completely abandoned her. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Vanessa. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Derek." Her voice was weak, broken. "I need your help." I stayed silent. "Everything's falling apart," she continued. "My parents cut me off. Ison blocked me. I got evicted because my rent checks bounced. My car got repossessed. I have nowhere to go. Sounds like you're facing the consequences," I replied coolly. "Please," she begged. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I've learned my lesson. I'll pay you back everything, I promise. I just need a place to stay for a few days." "How did you pay back the doctor for the money you scammed him out of for an illness you don't have? Or James, whose credit score you ruined? Or the other half-dozen guys you also defrauded?" Total silence on her end. "How does it feel," I continued, "to have your entire fake life come crashing down? For everyone to see who you really are?" "You ruined my life," she whispered. "No, Vanessa, you ruined your life. I just stopped letting you ruin mine. So that's it. You're just going to leave me with nothing." "Exactly what you planned to do to me," I replied. "Karma's a bitch, isn't it?" I hung up, blocked her new number, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, I genuinely smiled. Later that week, I received a letter from her father. Unlike his previous demanding and arrogant messages, this one was different. He apologized for his daughter's actions and for his own behavior. Enclosed was a check for $5,000. It wasn't nearly what she'd taken from me, but it was a gesture. "I failed as a father," he wrote. "I raised my daughter to believe she was entitled to everything without working for any of it. I'm trying to make that right, starting with you." I donated the money to a veterans healthcare charity in honor of Richard, who had been the only decent person in Vanessa's family from the start. As for Vanessa, I heard from Richard that she'd moved back in with her parents, tail between her legs. They laid down strict conditions: get a real job, start therapy, and make restitution to everyone she'd defrauded. Her social media empire crumbled as the truth spread among her followers. A month later, I received a surprise package. It contained the PlayStation 5 she'd fraudulently ordered on my Amazon account, still in its original packaging. Tucked inside was a note from Richard. "Found this at her apartment. Thought you might want it back." I invited Jake and a few buddies over that weekend for a game night, the first time I genuinely had fun in months. As we played, I told them the whole story, holding nothing back. "Dude," my friend Chris said during a pause, "you know what's crazy? You're actually happier now than you were when you were with her." He was right. Despite everything, the betrayal, the financial loss, the emotional manipulation, I was happier because I'd finally taken back control of my life. My down payment fund for a condo, which Vanessa had drained with her constant emergencies, started to grow again. Without having to cover her expenses, I was saving a significant portion of my income for the first time in years. I got promoted at work, partly due to the success of that project we delivered early. Mark, my boss, pulled me aside after announcing the promotion and said, "You've changed these past few months. You're more focused, more confident. Whatever you've shifted in your personal life is working professionally too." As for the other guys who were also victims of Vanessa's fraud, we still keep in touch. Michael got engaged to a nurse at his hospital, a woman he describes as the anti-Vanessa for her honesty and work ethic. James used his experience to create a financial literacy workshop he now presents at universities, teaching young people how to protect themselves from financial exploitation in relationships. And me, I started dating again. More cautiously this time, with better boundaries and expectations. I met a girl named Emily at a friend's barbecue. She's a software engineer, paid for her own drinks, and seemed genuinely interested in my work, not my wallet. On our third date, I told her about Vanessa. Not the whole story, but enough for her to understand why I might sometimes seem hesitant or reserved. She listened quietly, and then said something I'll never forget. "You know what's sad? She had a good man. one who would have given her the world honestly, and she threw it all away for short-term cons. Her life will never be as good as it could have been if she'd just been straight with you. Sometimes I think about how close I came to being trapped in Vanessa's web forever, justifying her behavior, draining my bank account to feed her lies, convincing myself I was the problem when something felt off. The greatest revenge wasn't anything I did to her. It was freeing myself and building a life she can't touch. A life built on honesty, hard work, and real connections. And knowing that while I'm thriving, she's starting from scratch, having lost the one thing she truly valued, her ability to manipulate men for money. If you're reading this and something in your relationship doesn't feel right, trust that feeling. People who actually love you don't lie to you in your own home, don't introduce you as their roommate, don't drain your bank account while sleeping with their ex. And if they do, make them regret it. Not with violence or direct confrontation, but by systematically dismantling the house of cards they've built. The best revenge isn't just moving on. It's making sure they can't do to anyone else what they did to you. Edit. Thanks for all the awards and support, folks. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, we filed police reports, but financial fraud between romantic partners is hard to prosecute unless you can prove intent. 2. No, I never got most of my money back, but freedom from her manipulation was worth every penny. 3. Yes, Emily and I are still dating. It's been 8 months, and things are going well. 4. No, I don't feel bad about what happened to Vanessa. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.